Now, the Lagos State Public Procurement Agency has issued a statement to clarify aspects of the state's procurement report following an open letter from Funso Doherty, governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress. The reply explained that the agency adheres strictly to the Lagos State Public Procurement Law and ensures all government transactions are conducted transparently, accurately, and accountably. And now to discuss this, I'm being joined by Jide, who is a public affairs analyst. Jide, thank you so much for joining us at this time.
It's my pleasure. Good afternoon.
Can you elaborate on the specific provisions within the Lagos State Public Procurement Law that governs the transparency, accuracy, and accountability of government transactions as highlighted in the agency's clarification statements?
My brother, the issue is not about the clarifications. The issue is whether those amounts that were found on the portal of the Procurement Agency of Lagos were justifiable. We commend Lagos State government for setting the pace in being transparent and uploading its procurement on the website. But come to think of it, this is an issue I engage in my column in the Punch today. And I'm just looking at all the justifications that even the governor himself yesterday came on here to say, oh, some of those things, there were typographical error because it's an Excel sheet, or that, they are just trying to be transparent and all of that. Look, the issue is not about whether they were transparent or accountable. The issue is that if it were to be the private fund of those who are running the government of Lagos State, would they have spent that kind of money to procure those materials that were found to be ridiculously high? How could you explain that you bought fragrance, for 7 million for the use of governor? How can you say you have 400 million naira car, in the pool of chief of staff? How can you spend 47 million to procure portrait picture of the president in Lagos State? How can you spend so much? In fact, this is mind-boggling. And this is not the first time. And as I pointed out in my column in the Punch today, I said the fault is not that of Lagos State. The fault is actually the Nigerian political system that is over monetized, so much so that people kill and maim to assume public office. Whatever we claim that Lagos State government spent, which is exorbitant and profligacious, which is mind blowing. The federal government has spent a lot more than that in terms of procurement. I mean, in the just signed a supplementary budget for 2023, we saw a sum of 1.5 billion for procurement of vehicles for the office of the wife of the president.
Now, Jide,
constitutional office.
Now, Jide, permit me to just come in here. Now, in such blatant profligacy, what arm of government do you think could have served as checks and balances? Of course, you mentioned the lawmaking arm of government. Of course, that is one of them. But what other arms of government or ministries should be in charge of checkmating expenditure of government and calling them to question and having to have their accounts being audited, looking at what they spend money on and the amount of money being spent? Of course, there are still cases of inflation when it comes to amounts being spent. So when it comes to checks and balances, on whose table should the buck stop?
Look, the democratic system provides for checks and balances of the three arms of government. We have the executive, we have the legislature, we have the judiciary. The legislature primarily have a role to query some of the budget lines when it was brought to them. That's why they have the Committee on Appropriation, and then they meet as Committee of Whole. Aside from that, they also have committees that oversee ministries, departments, and agencies. But let me quickly say this. Even at the federal level, look at how much the National Assembly earmarked for procurement of vehicles. We are talking of 160 million naira for each of the legislators, and coming to over about 45 billion naira. And you ask yourself whether this is the time that such procurement should be done, given the enormous number of Nigerians who are living below poverty. We are talking of 133 million multidimensionally poor Nigerians. We also know that the National Assembly earmarked 70 billion for renovation of that assembly complex in 2023 supplementary budget. Now, this is aside from what the institution got for its own budget in 2023. This is humongous, and this is not permissible in an impoverished country like Nigeria, where you have over about 40% of our youth being unemployed. So, coming back to your question, the National Assembly should have oversighted in terms of, before the passage of the appropriation, to query those budget lines and cut down considerably those budget lines. Two, the media and civil society also owe it a responsibility to oversee and to bring government to account. Apart from that, we have the Office of Auditor General of the State, Office of Accountant General of the State, as well as Office of Accountant General and Office of Auditor General of the Federation. So these are different checks and balances that have been placed in the democratic system. But unfortunately, many of these checks are also compromised by the nature of the inducement that takes place, which makes them to look the other way, while the culture of profligacy is sustained. It's quite unfortunate.
Well, it's quite unfortunate, I must say, Jide Ojo. It's something we still need to dig into to find out the facts and if there is any sensibility in all of this. But then, Jide Ojo, a public affairs analyst, it was nice to have had the session with you. Thank you very much.
Have a great day and stay safe.
And you too.